You know, it starts here. That's right, this is a key. And it's actually pretty. You can see it here. It's got a square, it's got a little Ferrari logo on it. It's got this really beautiful leather pattern. It's got 2 buttons, and it has this really pretty plaque that says SF90. It's brand new from Ferrari for this year, and it's beautiful. It's actually beautiful. You know, we reviewed the AMG GT Black Series I just got, and those fucking idiots couldn't put a key from anything other than an old C-Class on a $500,000 car. But these guys at Ferrari actually figured out, since we're building a one-of-a-kind hybrid car, we should probably give it a really beautiful key. And it's kind of a hybrid key, half leather, half metal, really pretty, very functional, and it just makes sense. But something doesn't make sense about the SF90, and that's something we haven't seen from Ferrari in a long time. And it's going to surprise you when I say this. It's got a lot of really nice details. I know, it's weird, right? I hate Ferraris. Every Ferrari I've ever reviewed has been a world-class piece of shit, from terrible craftsmanship, from hoods misaligning, headliners and cheap, well, okay, this still has a cheap-ass headliner, but the front headlights being foggy, you know, like the plastic on the inside feeling like crap. And this is different. They did something really different. They paid attention to the details. And I always say, there isn't much more than little details that make the difference between a good car and a great car. And I want to point out some of these very small details that make a difference. So first off, you'll notice these fins here that are really nice, and it's got kind of a shark look if you look from the outside. You got fins there, you got a little shark tail on top, a fin, whatever. You got holes here near the engine bay, which is really cool. But then if you really pay attention really closely, you'll notice a couple of things. First off, even the diffuser here at the bottom has little holes in it, which is an interesting concept I've never seen before. And then, in addition to that, if you follow through the car, you'll see really interesting lines and details. And that matters, and it makes a difference. And I'll tell you as an example. So you have these beautiful headlights integrated in the car, and you have carbon here like the F8, but you have this extra carbon fin here that really makes a difference in design. And I think it's just pretty. Like it's pretty, and it works. Now, it hasn't changed what the core idea of Ferrari is still, that every Ferrari comes with the worst height possible and really bizarre small wheels for a car that really should have 2 sizes bigger. But that we can fix that. That's not a problem. But you know, this is different for me, because the first thing that I do when I see a Ferrari is instantly call it a piece of shit. And its design, for once, and its attention to detail is just different. And I think that was a really good sign, and one of the first impressions I got when I first set eyes on my new SF90. Now, they did a couple of other things really right. First off, they did this little door handle here, which still feels flimsy. Like, it just feels crappy. And the door, I've said this before, Ferrari doors, the problem with Ferrari on the outside, and I'll tell you, a lot of people ask me, why do I hate these cars? And the answer is really simple. I hate these cars for one simple reason. They just feel like they're gonna break. They don't feel strong. There's a lot of rattles, like interior pieces, when you press buttons, don't give you a sense of strength. And this is something that Lamborghini has done really well. They've done a really good job straightening up the feeling of the cars, which I think is phenomenal. But Ferrari just doesn't know how to do that. And this car is definitely a step in the right direction. It's just not fully there yet. but it's definitely a step in the right direction. Now, I kind of was sad to buy a vacuum cleaner, which I've always said, like, this is the future of cars. We're going towards an era of vacuum cleaners, which is unfortunate. But this has a lot of good things, like the spoiler moves with speed, which is cool to create even better aero. Cool feature, nothing fucking out of the norm, but it's something we haven't seen before where, you know, one piece goes down and creates the aero under. It's just interesting. It is interesting, and I think that's the best way to describe the future of cars, because this is the first of its kind for Ferrari, and they're paying attention to the idea that the first of its kind means the first of its kind key, the first of its kind, and that's what's exciting, is the details are there. They're usually not there, but it's still somewhat weak looking. It still needs a set of wheels. It needs to get dropped. It needs to have that badass, like, filled fender well to give it the strength it needs. And the other thing too on design is that you have this engine that's all the way in there. I mean, it is far in there. Like look at the distance between here and there. Like, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to open this so you can see this, because it's completely different from what people expect. So you have this tiny glass here, which is cool, no problem here, and it still has a motor at least. At least it's not a complete vacuum cleaner. But I want you to see this here. Take a look at this. Look at all of this. You see that? It's so far down. And I think this could have been all carbon, and I'm pretty sure it was an option. I just got too cheap to do it. But anyways, so you can see here clearly that this isn't an exciting design for an exposed motor. I'm just saying, in general, doesn't seem that way. But, I mean, functions there. The back design, beautiful. The fins, beautiful. Taillights, gorgeous. Paint quality, better than most I've had. So, there's definitely an improvement. There's definitely a significant improvement from previous Ferraris. And I've owned every Ferrari, back from the Modena up to the recent Pista, the baby blue Pista, which that car was special. And I think because I've said this before in my videos, when cars go to TaylorMade or somewhere where you pay a lot of money, they get better quality control, and I think that's part of it. So this wasn't a TaylorMade car. This is just a factory matte Grigio paint car with really good options with roughly a 630K sticker. So, but it has a few things that are also unexpected. One, in the Pista, you got quite a large trunk. In this car, you don't. And I want to show you what I mean by you don't. You could look here. You truly don't. This is as big as the trunk gets. This is your battery, by the way, like, which looks like it's about to go to war or something. But you also don't have much here. Now, one thing that's funny about this car is the first time I set eyes on it, and you see the quality in the carbon hood again, it's got a lot of good stuff. But, you know, the one thing that I realized when I first set eyes on this car, I said, this is the exotic version of the NSX. And I was like, this is basically, I'm pretty sure when I get in this, I'm gonna feel like a better version of the NSX, which also costs 9 times as much. But I was thinking to myself, I was like, this is probably gonna be an NSX. And it's gonna probably drive really fucking fast. And the short of it is, I was right. But let's go inside, because I want to show you some of the stuff that really makes this car unique. Because it's not without flaws. It's got actually a lot of flaws. But as far as the flimsiness, that's my personal taste in Ferraris, which I don't think it works. But outside of that, for once, Ferrari design is actually acceptable and actually pretty good. I mean, design has details. The car has details. I mean, even the carbon, look at the skirt size. It is significant for design. Look at the scoop size. It is significant for design. And this is important because you have to understand that these are things that on the 812 GTS tamed the car so down that it was just horrible for me from a design standpoint. So it needed all types of Novitec, right? So let's go inside. I want to show you something real quick here, because I want to show you the biggest problem with this car, which is going to be weird for you. It's kind of the way you sit in it. So you kind of see me right now. I'm getting in, and I'm 5'7", so I'm a pretty short guy, right? So I'm sitting right here, And you can clearly see that there's a problem getting in. Look, as I'm trying to get in, I have to go all the way in like this so I don't hit something. Unless the seat is all the way back, right? Because if I go all the way back, then, oh, it doesn't even turn on because the car's not on, but we're gonna do that so you can see. If I go all the way back, now I want you to see something. Okay, shut up. Okay, so if I'm right here, right? I'm trying to get out. Now it's fine. But if I'm all the way up here where I'm driving, and fucking, that's the other problem, is the radio. We're gonna talk about that in a second. But anyways, so if I'm right here and I'm trying to get out, now I'm in the way. Now the other problem is, this is the uncomfortable part. So you're in the car and you open the door, and I want you to see this. You see how it does that? It wants to come back. So in a good mode, you have a lot of room to do that. But in a normal setting, let's say you're here, you see how it doesn't hold? You see, it has too much wiggle. You might say that, well, PJ, you're just complaining about shit, who cares? But this is a really big problem, because look at what happens. Let's say you got limited room, like most people, you park in a normal place. Look at what happens to your knee. See, it nails you in the fucking knee. Now, in the last 20 times I've gotten in this car, I've been nailed 17 fucking times. This is a problem because I'm not fucking 20 years old. I'm like almost 40. So I can't get in and out of a car without losing my fucking knees. It's a problem. So that's the biggest problem. And I know it sounds really fucking weird, but this is what it is to live with a car, because you got to deal with this. Because most times you don't have this big amount of room. And then look, the door won't open past this. So you're still in a very limited scope getting out. That's a problem. So I just want to point that out first, because I think this is a significant problem that people aren't talking about, because obviously they don't live with the car, they just review the car. So that's problem one. Then the seat angle and position is really bad, especially because these are actually the comfort seats with a better pattern, but they're still the comfort ones. And they're comfortable on your back, but they're not that comfortable to get in and out of. So I don't know. You know, I'm not sold on the seating position, I think, more than anything else. I'm sold on the windshield though, because you have incredible amount of view from all corners of this car. So it's very easy to drive, just like the F8 was. That's not the issue. Now we're gonna go inside, and I wanna show you the biggest second problem that this car has. All right, let's go in. All right, so first off, you see you have limited room, so even my bag doesn't really have much to go, but at least you get a glove box. I mean, that's glorious, because as sad as that is, you don't really get a glove box in a lot of other cars. You get a little pouch here to put stuff in, like sunglasses, that's about it. And you do get a cup holder, and that doesn't cost extra. So I'm happy with space. I'm just saying there's very little of it to put in your bag or anything. But that's not the point of these cars, so it doesn't matter. But then comes the really cool and really shitty part altogether. The coolest thing about this car is that usually I'm a huge advocate of carbon everywhere. And you would absolutely realize that this car has limited carbon on the inside. Like, these are carbon options. This is a carbon option. And one of the problems is this car doesn't have it. And yet I'm not complaining about that. And I'll tell you why I'm not complaining. It's not even because you can spec it, which is fair, because you can spend $7 grand. It's not that expensive to do carbon. So that part's not the issue, nor is the vents. But the one thing you'll notice is that the quality of interior has gone up 500%. I mean, this is a glorious step for Ferrari. And I'm gonna tell you why. One, the quality of the stitching and the leather feels 10 times better. The combination of Alcantara, beautiful. The combination of metal instead of plastic everywhere, beautiful. The feel of the buttons, the window switches, glorious. Some of the best and most exciting window switches ever. I know it sounds petty, but it's not. Like, this is what makes an incredible car. And look, the key even fits here like a logo. It's absolutely beautiful. But the main thing here that I want to point out that's really good is the feel these buttons have. The feel that these little buttons fucking always, I swear to God, there's always some lawnmower in the background doing some fucking stupid shit, because there's some guy with a Civics trying to show off the size of his cock, and it just doesn't work. But the point I'm trying to make, sorry about the rant. So the buttons here feel really good. The vents feel really good. Everything, the steering wheel, the carbon on the steering wheel, it feels really solid. And this is something we haven't seen from Ferrari in a long time. And yes, the headliner still fucking sucks. They have this textured bullshit, which we're going to change today. It's actually going to a company here that does headliners, and they're going to redo that. But here, even the visors, beautiful, like hand stitched, everything is beautiful. The issue though with the beauty of everything is not really the touch, but it's actually the touch. So we're going to turn this car on so you can kind of understand what's happening. So the first thing is, just like a vacuum cleaner, you can't tell if it's plugged in the wall or not. So see, like right now it's on. Because it's a hybrid, you can't really tell. So we're going to put it in non-hybrid mode, and now we have a motor, right? And it sounds pretty good. I mean, it sounds really good for a hybrid, like really good. And I'm pointing that out because usually even the F8 sounded like complete horseshit from the factory. This thing sounds really good, and it's a hybrid. So kudos to them on that. The steering wheel is glorious, like absolutely glorious. It's really easy to drive, it feels good, and these paddles and the touch is significantly better than any previous Ferrari. So fantastic. Everything on here lights up and becomes digital, even better. That's kind of the problem though. You see, there's so much going on in the steering wheel that it's like near impossible to drive without trying to think where things are. And that's a flaw if you have a driver's car. Because, like for example, this is where the radio is. Now the radio, look at my arm. As I'm driving, I have to move up to basically change the radio. But they've made it easy by adding two buttons behind here, one for up and down, one for the volume back here. But it's one of three buttons back here. So because it's one of three buttons, you have to kind of find it with your hand, and it's not that simple. So one, the radio is far. Problem, subjectively, right? But meaning it's not really usable for you, it's more for your passenger. The AC is all here. Again, no problem. You can go up, you can go down, all digital, beautiful again. On this side, you have your mirrors, and on the steering wheel here, you even have buttons to go up and down, right? Also not an issue. Except when you're driving, it's really fucking annoying. I mean, it is incredibly irritating to try to have to figure out how to change settings or do things, and it's just annoying. And it has a heads-up display, which is kind of boring. It has this beautiful interface, which has a lot going on it. That part's good. It's easy to read, it's easy to see, everything makes sense. The part though that gets really hard is all of these buttons, because like let's say I want to go up and down, I have to press this button here, and then I have to press down, and I don't know if I'm pressing down or I have to slide my thumb down. And it's cool when you're sitting here trying to figure the car out. It's just really stupid when you're driving at 40, 80, 100 miles an hour and then need to do that in the middle of your driving, because it really takes your concentration off the road. The Bluetooth system is significantly better than before, and the functionality is a 9 out of 10 because it's just way better. So that's basically my take on my new SF90. But I want to go for a drive, and I want to show you and really tell you during this drive why this car is really good. And it's surprisingly good, because I expected it to be really bad. And maybe that's why it's even better than I thought, because my expectation going in, it wasn't that it was going to be good. And every Ferrari I went into it before, I went in with the expectation that it was going to be very good, and it ended up very bad. So maybe it's a question of expectation, or a question that I have too many cars to compare it to. But I think this particular car is really good. And I think during the drive, I'm going to be able to explain to you why. So let's get together and let's go driving. All right, so now we're getting a little bit of a taste of what it's like to drive the SF90. Now, first off, even the seat controls on the side, the buttons are metal, they're not plastic, and they feel sturdy and good. The dash feels good, the steering wheel, like I told you, is fantastic. And if you really pay attention to this whole craziness going on here, I told you before, it's just going to take time getting used to, and ultimately it's just annoying while driving. It's not bad when you're stopped. The steering wheel feel has improved 10,000% with a skinnier but sturdier steering wheel, which is fantastic. The mirror is large, you have a really good view. But you know, talking about the car itself and the power. So these buttons here are glorious. It gives you a really, really exciting feel of money. And I think that matters. Same controls as the other piece though, whatever, but just much better. Here now we're in manual mode. With these 3 modes here, you can go to qualifying, race, hybrid, or full electric. And you see right now we're in hybrid. And unless you hear it, like you don't hear anything anymore. It's just completely dead basically. And as we take off here, you're gonna kind of feel that the power is very limited in hybrid mode. Very not exciting, but as you put power into it, because we're only in sport mode, not in race mode, you're going to start feeling the motor kick in, which is exciting. Like it has a very NSX-ish feel, and I think that's what made the NSX so good, was that it didn't take away from the driving experience, and I don't think this does either. And you can see the boost versus charge and stuff, and your map is good. So you see, like we're going, this is electric, and you see now that I want power, it's good. Now it's gonna maybe scare you a little bit, so don't get too scared.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. It's too much.
It's brutal, like, and I was maybe just to be fair, I was maybe at 50% throttle. So this car is not okay. Like it's really fast. Like, and it handles wonderful. Like it is planted. I mean, it is planted, and I love that because I've always see now we're in like this bullshit like hybrid mode. So we're gonna get out of this because this is fucking annoying.
Oh, fuck.
There you go. Now we're gonna stay in full. Like, I want you to understand, this is amazing. This is unbelievable how fast this car is. Like, unbelievable, right? What do you think, Reggie?
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's planted. It's planted. It's crazy. The buttons feel good. The power's there. And it's just, like, it's usable power. And that, I think that's one of my biggest issues always been with McLaren. Like the 765 LT is an amazing car. It's incredibly fast, but it just feels like you're about to eat the fucking wall every time you get on it. But this car just feels really planted. And even when you go over bumps on the road or things like that, it doesn't sound like something's broken or vibrating or anything else. It's just really solid. So really solid car all around. And just really fun to drive. And you hear the turbos, you hear the motor. It doesn't really go to hybrid mode unless you put it. But you see, look at that. Insane, right? Like nuts. Like a piece of rock comes, instant reaction, zero sliding. Just fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic. Handling, fantastic performance all around. So very impressed. I said this about the NSX. I thought that was one of the best cars. I thought Honda had done the greatest thing ever, building a 150K version of something that was, you know, like the 918 that was $1 million at the time, and I thought that was unbelievable. And now Ferrari has done it with a 650K car. To be fair, that sells for like 800 to 900K, but still nonetheless a really, really good mix of usage of, you know, hybrid power without taking away from the excitement of the noise, coupled with the handling, with the all-wheel drive. It's just good. It's really good. And I think once you put wheels on it, lower it, you nail the design and the strength of the car on the outside, because you get rid of these gaps and this ugliness, and it just gets really, really, really good. But I mean, like I said, an 8.5 is a very tall score for me when it comes to Ferrari, but I think that's what this car is basically worth on a scale factor. I still don't think it's as good as the SVJ, but it's definitely there, and I think it's definitely good. So there you have it. Let's get back and let's talk about our final verdict of the SF90. Well, there you have it. We spend a little bit of time with the SF90, and honestly, probably not enough time to truly gauge how good of a car it really is, but thankfully, it actually belongs to me, so you're going to be seeing it for quite some time. It is going to go and undergo a pretty extensive transformation from a design standpoint to make it even sexier. But for now, as it stands in its stock form, It is fantastic, and I rarely say this about any Ferrari. Everything from the key details we talked about to the design of the car really honed in on what the F8 should have been. Now, outside of the fact that you get a tax credit, which is even bigger icing on the cake when you buy a $700,000 SF90, but the other part that I think is just brilliant on the car is just how well it works with its engine on, not just with its hybrid system. It's just really fun to drive. The shifting is crisp, the car feels very planted and aggressive, and it's brought Ferrari back to, I think, what it once was, to still innovate while keeping a feeling that the driver can do more. And I think this is something we don't see in a lot of cars. We saw Lamborghini do this really well. They brought out an SVJ, a Performante in a car that made a normal person feel like a race car driver, pushing your ability to basically enjoy the car without eating yourself into a wall. And I think this car does that really well too. Is it a better car than my Pista? My Pista was really special, and I don't think that this is a better car than my specific Pista, but do I think it's a better baseline and forward motion to what the Pista was to Ferrari? Absolutely. And I think for once, Ferrari actually did really well, from design to everything else. And I mean, just look at the key. Mercedes can learn so much from this. But from everything to this, they did really well. So there isn't really much negative to say about it. But again, it did, break down on me 2 times in less than, like 50 miles? So perhaps reliability, but that's something more for the long term to see where it really stands and where it doesn't. For now, that is it. Please leave your comments. Do you think the SF90 is Ferrari's best ever car? Is it worth $1 million? I mean, these things are selling for like $900,000 now in the used market. Click in the comments and let me know your thoughts. Like, turn on notifications, and of course, don't forget our holiday sale for Exotic Car Hacks is happening right now. So click the link in the description and actually join us. It's a lot more fun on the inside than just watching YouTube. See you later, guys.